Hey, this is Terry with Total Life Pursuit, and welcome to the Physical Health Training video course. This is number 8 in the video training course. I'm sure you can find the rest of them on our webpage and also on our YouTube page, our YouTube channel rather. And I hope you've been working through the workbook. I hope it's going real well for you. You're probably at least halfway, if not more, done and into your 4-week reset. And I'm hoping that and praying that you're finding great success and a good challenge from it and becoming healthier and healthier all the time. Today, I am going to talk to you about the gut, or taking care of our inner world. So there's this new thing, new being 10, 15 years in science, new thing called microbiome. The microbiome are microscopic microorganisms that mostly are living bacteria. We call them microbes for short. There are about 30 to 100 trillion cells that make up your body. Everyone has got a different opinion, but that's a lot of trillion cells. There are more microbes in your body than there are cells in your body. So maybe up to 4 trillion bacteria or microbes in your body. And these numbers are in dispute, but let me give you just an understanding of how many bacteria or microbes are in your body. It's about 3 pounds. 3 pounds of you is bacteria. So they live in your intestines primarily, and in your skin. Now they're all throughout your system, and especially your skin. You've got all kinds of hot spots for them all over your skin, and we'll get to why that's important later. But the reality is most of them live in your intestines. We have about 20 to 25,000 genes in our cells, but the human microbiome holds more, maybe 500 times more than that. They're vital to our being. They're vital to our well-being. Most of the intestinal bacteria is in your cecum, or right near your ileocecum valve. It's where the small and the large intestine kind of come together right there. There are more than 1,000 different species of bacteria that play different roles. They produce proteins, they produce metabolites, and those things and many other things that they produce, they float around in your system. They're informational molecules that are produced that change your biology. So what science is showing us is these little guys, mostly in your intestines, are changing everything in your biology. So they're linked to cancer prevention or cancer creation. They're linked to autoimmune disease, depression, a sense of happiness and well-being. You get most of these microbiome in your initial descent into life. That is through the vaginal canal of your mom. You get up to 3/4 of your colonizations or your initial colonies, so to speak, through birth. And then you get a ton through breastfeeding. So vaginal birth, breastfeeding, very important to secure the colonization of microbiome in an infant. We get about 1 million microbes in every gram of food that we eat. And also, we get them from our surroundings. We get them from the environment. Every house has its different microbiome. Every country, every city. In fact, every dog, not every dog, but dogs are really good for owners, and we'll get to that at the end. But pets are good for building your microbiomes. Your microbiomes quickly, and I'll go into this in detail in a little bit, but they feed on fiber and prebiotics. Some of them feed on sugar, and those are the bad microbiome. You see, you have this balance. You kind of have a neutral colony, you have a bad colony, and you have a good colony. And you may think, well, don't you want to just get rid of everything and go for the good colony? Actually, you don't. You want to have a balance, but you don't want to feed the bad guys. And sugar feeds the bad guys. So some bacteria produce hydrogen sulfide. Others remove it. Others use it. It's really a symbiotic relationship that all of these have. Now, if you have too much hydrogen sulfide, that in some people it could cause a breakdown of your DNA. And the problem there is colon cancer is often associated with a breakdown in DNA. It starts a chain reaction. Did you get that? It's not eating too much red meat. They would have liked us to believe that, but here's the deal. If eating too much red meat, or the type of red meat, more accurately, that you're eating a lot of, could actually feed the bad bacteria rather than the good bacteria, giving the bad bacteria in your gut a dominance, and that is a problem. Are you with me so far? The microbiome, the gut microbiome, controls the storage of fat. It assists in activating genes in human cells involved in absorbing nutrients and breaking down toxins and creating blood vessels. It helps produce hormones. It triggers them from our glands. We produce hormones from our adrenals and our ovary. I don't have any ovaries, but from testicles and other places. But there's this peripheral conversion where the hormones are made and released, and our liver and our intestinal tract rearranges them and converts them back and forth in lots of different ways we won't go into. But without good gut flora, it won't happen in the desired way. The gut is one of the master signalers, if not the master signaler, to many things, including sex hormones, testosterone, and estrogen production, as well as other hormones. Here's another interesting fact about the gut. I'm just trying to give you a little background about the gut because I'm going to ask you at the end of this teaching to make some changes. I'm trying to convince you that this needs your attention. In fact, read some books on this. They're actually very, very fascinating. So neurons in the gut connects with the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is that big old highway from your gut to your brain, okay? They fire when you get essential fatty acids or when you get amino acids, that's proteins, and good things happen. They also fire when you get sugar. Now, it's very interesting. I learned a few weeks ago. The neurons can be tricked into signaling dopamine production because 50% of it happens in your gut. Dopamine is not just about the pleasure in this case. It creates a craving. So it sends a signal to your brain that creates a craving. I'm not a sugar guy. Maybe that's your deal. I'm not a sugar guy. I'm a salt guy, okay? But when I do eat sugary stuff, I'm not talking about rich cake or anything like that. I'm talking about more like watermelon or dried mangoes. Oh, I love those. Organic, no sugar added, but plenty of sugar anyways. I just can't stop eating those things. It just kind of creates this craving for more sugar. Yeah, that's all about my gut microbiome. It's creating not a desire, but a craving for it. See, they have found also when you ingest emulsifiers found in packaged foods and sugars, they actually make these microbiomes that are responsible for firing when hit with EFAs, essential fatty acids, or amino acids, and specifically glutamate, they begin to detract and not operate at all. In other words, when you're eating good stuff because you ate the bad stuff, your gut microbiome are not firing. Because they're not firing, you crave bad food. So many cravings are created in the gut. Remember, it is your second brain. The gut is your second brain. So let's talk about fiber real quick. A lot of talk when I was a young guy about getting enough fiber, and you had this stuff that you poured in the glass and you swigged it around and you drank it, and it was terrible. Absolutely terrible. That's because that's not how fiber was intended to be ingested. Okay, so there's insoluble fiber that the small intestines can't break down. And then there's soluble fiber, which is broken down very, very easy. The insoluble fiber is what the microbiome, the good guys, they feed on. So it has a really great health benefit to the microbiome in your gut. It feeds a very good strains of, let me see if I can get this, Bifido. Maybe you've heard of baby bifidus. We take probiotics, or the kids take probiotics. Bifidobacterium bacteroides type of bacteria. So it's very helpful in reducing inflammation. Anyone got arthritis? Anyone got problems with their joints? It reduces inflammation and it heals the intestinal tract. So if you just do a quick search, you'll see there are common things from a fiber deficiency like weight gain. Can I say it again? Weight gain, heart disease, cancer, and of course constipation. Not enough fiber, not enough potty trips. Americans are terrible at consuming fiber. Why is that? Because we've processed all our food. We've processed the fiber out of our food. About 5% of Americans get their daily recommended allowance of fiber. 5%. That leaves 95% of Americans who are short. On average, people get about 50% of what they need per day. A high fiber diet, in both soluble and insoluble, normalizes bowel movements. I won't talk about it. Okay, it helps maintain bowel health. It lowers cholesterol. What? Lowers cholesterol? Yep, because microbiome have a lot to do with cholesterol levels. It helps control blood sugar. It aids in achieving healthy weight. It staves off major diseases, and it helps you to live longer. Fiber is very, very important. So I talked about gaining weight or weight loss or something to do with your weight. Let me tell you something. Microbiome have a lot to do with weight loss. When we don't have enough gut microbes, when we don't have enough of the good guys, we actually are hungrier, which leads to overeating because we're producing more ghrelin, the hunger hormone, than we should. So we're like insatiable. I'm just so hungry. I can't get enough to eat. Certain bad bacteria cause the body to crave food like sugar. And we talked about that. Sugar, not good. Because once you get so much sugar in your body's like, hey, we got to do something with this. And you don't just urinate it out, you store it. You store it in fat cells, okay? So microbiome imbalance can cause the suppression of leptin. Leptin is like, I'm full hormone, right? So if you have an imbalance in your microbiome, you never get that I'm full. Push away from the table, boy. You know, that's me. I have a hard time pushing away from the table. I know it doesn't look like it, but inside, I want to just keep eating sometimes. Maybe I got issues with my gut balance. Could be. Weight gain, if you keep eating because you don't get the signal, you're done. You gain weight. This is one of the reasons that artificial sweeteners are bad for your health. What? Diet soda's bad? Yes, diet soda is terrible. One of the reasons is artificial sweeteners kill microbiome and therefore disrupt the balance of bacteria in your gut. And that leads to not only weight gain, but other health issues. Well, how does it gain weight? You have too much ghrelin. You have not enough leptin. So your desires for food are all out of whack. More calories are absorbed in an unhealthy gut. There's a landmark study in Washington University in St. Louis. They studied gut microbes from human twins, same DNA, identical twins, same DNA. They studied the gut microbiome. They had identical DNA, but one was obese and the other one was thin. They took bacteria from each twin and they put it in germ-free mice. These animals, the animals with the obese twins microbiome, guess what happened? They got obese. The mice that had the thin twin, guess what happened? They stayed thin. It was all about the microbiome in the gut. So really, it is quite a key to weight loss. So you got to pay attention to it. Immune factor. The immune factor is huge. I don't have time to go all into it. Let me just give you a couple things. Microorganisms replenish the lining of the gut and the skin, replacing damaged and dying cells with new ones. Equally vital is their role in preventing illness. Our native microbiomes compete with invading ones because we get them, right? Within arm's distance, there's 3 billion bacteria in the air all around you. Okay? So the good bacteria in your gut compete with the bad bacteria that you get inside by breathing, touching, licking your hands after you touch, or ingesting on food. So it competes with them because we have an immune system. And when our immune system, when we're young, is only partially formed, and it's all of these bacteria warring against the good bacteria that are in you that help create a better immune system. So being germ-free is not a good idea. It's the interactions with the microbes that shape it, influencing classes of immune cells that are generating and development of the organs that make and store them. In other words, it is such a great thing to have a good microbiome, a good gut flora for your immune system. There's more. Ed Young says in his book, I Contain Multitudes, the immune system is not innately hardwired to tell the difference between a harmless symbiont and the threatening pathogen. It's the microbe that makes the distinction clear. Did you get that? The immune system innately doesn't know when it's a bad thing that got into your body, but your gut microbe is the one that signals it. They control how your immune system works by cellular communication with the cells. Your gut health affects the way you digest fats, which affects your inflammation. Inflammation is the culprit in nearly every disease, including the big ones: heart disease, cancer, and cardiovascular disease, cancer, and Alzheimer's. Those are the big ones. So when the liver gets inflamed, it can't do its job well. This should make complete sense to us. So gut health is complete body health, because your gut is really responsible for about 70 to 80% of your immune system response. Bad gut, compromised immune system. Viruses and bacteria get in, and you are easier pickings for them to make you ill. Diseases now linked to your gut are cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune disease, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer, neurodegenerative diseases, behavioral diseases, mood disorders like depression and anxiety. What? Depression and anxiety? How can the mind? Glad you asked me that, because the brain and the gut have a lot to do with one another. Biome affects the nervous system and controls brain function. They're finding out in research that Alzheimer's and Parkinson's are greatly influenced by gut microbiome. Your gut has a brain. It's like, I feel it in my gut. We've said this for eons. It's not just a colloquialism. I can't say it. Colloquialism. That was terrible. I speak for a living. But anyways, it's not just a saying, okay? It's not just a popular saying. Really, we do have a second brain in our gut. Our gut actually creates 90% of our serotonin. And that is believed to help regulate mood, social behavior, appetite, digestion, sleep, memory, sexual desire, and function. It creates up to 50% of your dopamine. Dopamine plays a role in how we feel pleasure, but it has also a big part in our human ability to think and to plan. You see, your butt contains about did I say your butt? Did I just say that? Oh my gosh. She's probably not going to edit that out, so just have a good laugh, because laughing is really good for your health. Okay, your gut has 500 million neurons, or brain cells, which are connected to your brain via the vagus nerve. That's why the stress response and negative thinking and depression and anxiety have so much effect on your gut. Your gut also creates GABA. It's the happy transmitter, and it helps control feelings of fear or anxiety. So are you getting this? If your gut's not healthy, your neurotransmitters for your brain are off kilter, and you could be more depressed, anxious, or any number of mental disorders because of your gut. And I'm not saying that's the only reason. I'm just postulating that it is a reason because research has shown that. We don't want to believe that, though. Sometimes we don't like believing the truth. How come? Because then we'd be responsible for changing the way we eat, changing our gut flora, making our gut healthy in order to think better. And sometimes we just don't want to do that. And you think, wait a second, you must never had. Oh no, I've had anxiety attacks. I understand a little bit of how anxiety works. And the reality is, I wish I knew what I know now, because I would have absolutely gone after it with ferocity. Let me, oh, by the way, there's a bright side. Heal your gut, be able to think better. That's it. That's a good time. Leaky gut syndrome, I just want to mention this really quick just so you understand what this is. Your small intestine absorbs nutrients from the food through its lining. Unused portions of food goes down to the large intestine. Leaky gut syndrome is when the lining of your intestines, small intestines, their holes are too big. It's like the filter, kind of, you have a pool filter or any kind of filter, a strainer for your vegetables or whatever, for your pasta or whatever, you cook whole grain pasta. But you're cooking the pasta, it's a strainer. It's kind of like that. But the hole gets too big, and stuff that shouldn't get into your bloodstream now is getting into your bloodstream. Because it only is supposed to get in the good stuff to your bloodstream, right? Through that filter. The rest of it goes down to the large intestine. So leaky gut is actually, you got this little opening, like crevice, and it's just too big. So food particles get into your system, which causes inflammation. So we get insulin resistance from that. We accumulate fat from that. It's a causative factor in a lot of major diseases. So number one reason that we get leaky gut, can you guess what it is? Number one, for sure, number one, modern American diet. Yep. Low in fiber, high in sugar, refined carbohydrates, and high in saturated fats. And then number two, possibly could be stress. It could be stress. Stress has a lot to do with your gut. It really throws you off. I'm going to be talking about stress in 2 more teachings. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. But other contributors to leaky gut syndrome, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. You mean that little pill I popped to feel better? Yeah, that's it. Acid reflux products, prescription meds, antibiotics, high alcohol use, food sensitivities, yeast infections, and parasites. Oh, parasites. I haven't been to, a third world country in a long time. Yeah, don't you believe it, sister. We got parasites right here in the good old US of A, just not as many. So parasites might be an issue. See your naturopathic practitioner. How we ruin our gut microbiome. I want to just talk about that. I just talked about leaky gut. It's kind of the same thing. But I want to introduce you to the Hadza people of Tanzania. The Hadza people of Tanzania have the gut microbiome diversity of one of the most of the richest on the planet. In other words, their diversity is incredible. They're 40% higher diversity than the average American, 30% than the average Brit. The average Hadza person eats around, are you ready, 600 different species of plants and animals. In a year, in 1 year. Do you see one of our problems already? They have virtually none of the common Western diseases such as obesity, allergies, heart disease, and cancer. In contrast, most Westerners have fewer than 50 species in their diet. And how many do you remember how many species there were in your gut? 1,000. People living in rural areas have better microbes than those living in the city. We'll talk about that in a second. Our lifestyle, including what we eat and everything that we do, is our ticket to gut health, which has everything to do with our overall health. One of our big problems is antibiotics. I emphasize that word in my list on healthy gut. Let me just go into it. They can be life-saving. I thank God that we have them. People would have died without them. I get that. Our problem is we go to the doctor, and actually family practitioners and pediatricians have been surveyed, and they feel pressure to give a medication when a child or an adult comes in for a problem. They feel a pressure like, I got to give them something to get better, even though antibiotics don't work on viruses because they're antibiotics. They're microbiome, bacteria. So the problem with antibiotics is they aren't discriminatory in what they kill. They kill bacteria. That's a problem for our microbiome. Bronchitis is 99% of the time a virus. It's not helped by antibiotics. But I bet you have been to the doctor and you've received antibiotics for bronchitis, or maybe another disease like a cold, the flu, or anything like that. That it's a virus, and they prescribed. And I'm not saying anything bad about doctors, because we're the ones who take them. The doctor doesn't shove them down my throat. I do. So it's my issue. The problem is, as I said before, they change your gut flora. And some people believe that they change it forever. Some people believe they change it for years. Some scientists believe they change it for weeks. I don't know. But they change it, and that's a problem. So obviously, if you need it, don't die saying, I got malaria, bacterial malaria. I don't know if there even is such a thing, but I got malaria. I think it's virus. I got something really bad bacterially, and I'm not going to take antibiotics because it'll mess up my gut flora. I'm not giving medical advice out. That's not what this is about. This whole thing is about you making your own decisions. All I'm saying is, don't pop a Z-Pack when you're starting to feel a little ill. That's not how to use antibiotics. Let's talk about artificial sweeteners, because they're another big one. I mentioned it before. Cleveland Clinic's gut expert, Dr. Gail Kresge, says that the way artificial sweeteners are processed in the gut lead to insulin resistance and weight gain because of how they affect the microbe communities in our gut. So we actually, with the diet stuff, gain weight. Why? Because of the way it negatively affects your gut. So let's talk about how to heal. Let's bring this home. Terry, you got me. I'm paying attention now. I want to do something. How hard is it going to be? It's going to be so easy. Here's the number one thing to do. Are you ready? Take a probiotic. I'm going to tell you to eat it too, but if you have really bad gut health, take a probiotic. See your practitioner. Don't just do it because I said it. I'm just saying this is how we can heal our gut. Probiotics. A broad range probiotic. Don't take the same one every single time, because that's building up what? Only that one. Get a broad spectrum probiotic. Okay, and don't take it all the time. You got to change it up. Get tested. See what you're deficient in. How do they test for that? Fecal sample. Well, that's gross. Yeah, but if you got issues, take one. Get the test, and you can see what you're deficient in, and you can take it to a naturopathic or a holistic nutritionist, therapist, and they can tell you what you should be eating or what you should be taking. Let's talk about what you should be eating. Non-pasteurized yogurts and cheeses. Pasteurizing kills all the microbiome in them, kills the bacteria, the good and the bad. Kefir, fermented foods, good one. Kimchi, sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is so good. As long as no one cooks it at home, I just get it in a jar. It's so good. It doesn't even taste bad. But I remember my mom used to cook it. You remember that? Oh, that was terrible. It was awful. I would have never eaten that. But now I love it. I eat it all the time. Kombucha, certain pickles, okay, fermented instead of heat, vinegar, brine. So the reality is there are foods out there that are really going to help, and they're probiotics. In other words, they have good flora in them. So we went over fiber. You got to eat more fiber. 38 grams a day. How do I tell that? Punch it in your little app. I use Chronometer. They should pay me for that. But punch it in your little app. High fiber grains. If you're going to eat grains, 100% whole grain, whole wheat. Not just wheat. Whole grain, whole wheat. Hemp seeds, quinoa, chia seeds, buckwheat, or whole buckwheat, I guess I should say. High fiber fruits, raspberries, pears, blueberries. Who doesn't like those? Strawberries, bananas, ooh, high in sugar. Apples, peaches, prunes. I'd die for a good peach, that tastes good. Do you know that when it tastes really good, you get that full peach flavor? That means there's more phytonutrients in it. It's wonderful the way that is. High fiber vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, spinach, potatoes. Watch that. Sweet potatoes. That's better. String beans, peas. So eliminate artificial sweeteners, aspartame, sucralose, saccharides, or saccharin rather, not saccharides, saccharin. These disrupt the microbiome. So eliminate them. Ditch the processed foods while you're at it. All that junk food, and they also mess up the microbiome. So that means fast food, packaged food, nonsense food. The stuff that really isn't food at all. It's just pleasure. Was that hard? I'm so sorry. Oh, eat your design. Eat how you were designed to eat. Good, wholesome, vegetable-based diet. Now you're saying, what? You don't eat? No, I do eat meat. I eat some grain too, whole grain. The reality is, what were we supposed to eat in the very beginning? Eat those and eliminate the things that trigger you. How do I know what triggers me? It doesn't sit well, causes bloating and gas. I get a stomach ache. I don't want to eat for hours and hours and hours because I got intestinal issues. I can't digest it well. Those are the things that trigger you. So eliminate them. Sugar and dairy and gluten and soy, and maybe even grains. It just depends on you, okay? Try to increase the intervals between meals. Give your microbes a rest. Don't eat all day. Snack all day. Just constant snacking all during the day. Occasionally skip a meal. Have an extended fast. Fast from sunup to sunup again, or sundown to the next sundown again. It gives your digestive system time to replenish itself, and it seems to reduce weight gain. Prebiotics are food for the probiotics. In other words, the good bacteria like onions and leeks and garlic and asparagus. Eat some of those in your diet on a daily basis. Okay, foods that help the gut-brain axis, EFAs, the essential fatty acids, especially omega-3 essential fatty acids, because we probably have too many omega-6s in our diet anyways. That increases good bacteria. Polyphenol-rich foods like green tea, olive oil. Here you go. Coffee. I said it. Now I'm loved by everybody. Polyphenols and antioxidants that act as fuel for the microbes. Nuts and seeds and berries and especially that green tea, like I said. Tryptophan-rich foods like turkey and eggs and cheese. Do you see this? How hard is this? This is not that hard. I hope you're taking notes. I'm moving fast. L-glutamine, which is really a great amino acid found in bone broth. And I mean, it's found in a lot of things, but bone broth is fantastic. A little bone broth in the morning, tough to do in the summer, I know, but hey, how about the wintertime? A little soup, a little drink of the soup every single morning. It's good stuff. You could do a colon cleanse or a parasite cleanse or a candida cleanse. That's going to help your gut. Please do it under a doctor's supervision, though. I just want to put a disclaimer in there, okay? I'm not telling you to go out and get some, Cascara Sagrada or something that's going to flush you like a lever. You got to do it under a practitioner's care. Okay, here's another thing to eliminate. incessant washing of your hands and antibacterial everything all over you. It ruins your skin microbiome balance. Well, I might catch. I'm not saying don't wash your hands, but we've become incessant, and we're singing happy birthday while we're doing it. We're washing so long. Fastidious washing and overuse of antibacterial sprays is not good for your gut. And the last thing I'm going to tell you today, no, it's not the last thing. I just had a big space here. Get a dog. Get a dog. So I got a dog. Studies have shown that people living with dogs have more microbial diversity. It doesn't mean you need to let the dog lick you in the mouth. That's gross. You saw what they were just eating outside, right? But it does mean that the dogs actually are beneficial for your health. Play in the dirt. You know we're taken from dust, so play in the dirt. It's full of wonderful bacteria. Don't always have gloves on. I know you don't want to get your fingernails dirty, but you got to get in it, sit in it, throw it all over yourself. Stop trying to get your kids to, no, don't get it dirty, Johnny. Forget that. Let them get dirty. It's fantastic for them. They'll be better for it. My final recommendation is from a book by Dr. David Perlmutter. I don't know how he says his name. Perlmutter. The Power of Gut Microbes to Heal and Protect Your Brain for Life. He has a 7-day meal plan in there that's pretty good. He says in most cases, it'll heal your gut in 7 days. So you might want to check that meal plan out. I hope you've learned a lot. I hope you've learned this, that the gut means a lot. It's forgotten. We don't talk about it. It's like a science thing. But the reality is, if we treat the gut right, the gut will treat our entire body right, and we'll have better physical health. And that's what we're after, because who wants to be sick or miserable? I like being really happy, joyful, and walking around kicking my heels in the air, kind of like an old commercial. How about you? I hope so. Hope you've enjoyed this. Hope it's inspired you. Go back through and if you need to, and write down the things that you can do. They're easier than you think. Small adjustments make a big difference. I'm Terry with Total Life Pursuit. We'll see you next time.